Hello and welcome back to iSpy, and today's topic is retinoscopy, in which we are going to look into the types of retinoscopy, techniques of retinoscopy, terms and definitions related to retinoscopy, and at the end procedure of retinoscopy. So here in this video I'll try my best to make you understand the terms related to retinoscopy and procedure of retinoscopy. But as Jack Copland said, you can't learn retinoscopy by reading a book because retinoscopy is a skillful art that you can learn only with practice. And as you practice more, retinoscopy will provide you with exact measurements of refractive errors. And you will find it a valuable starting point for every refraction. So just let me tell you first that what is retinoscopy, which is also known as skiascopy, shadow test, pupilloscopy, and chorioscopy, is an objective method of measuring the optical power of the eye. We describe retinoscopy as an objective method because results of the retinoscopy are not dependent upon the patient's response. In addition to the measurement of the refractive power of the eye, retinoscopy also helps to detect the aberrations of the cornea and crystalline lens. It also provides some clues in respect of opacities of ocular media. And as retinoscopy doesn't need patient's response, so it is very helpful tool with uncooperative and malingering patients, infants, deaf, and in all such cases where language or communication creates difficulties during the process of refraction. Optical principle of retinoscopy. So retinoscopy works on Foucault's principle, which states that when the light reflected from a mirror into the eye, the direction in which light travel across the pupil will depend upon the refractive status of the eye. Types of retinoscopy are static retinoscopy, dynamic retinoscopy, Mohindra retinoscopy, and radical retinoscopy. From here, we'll move with the static retinoscopy and others we'll see later one by one. Now let's move on to the optics of retinoscopy that can be understood in three stages. And these stages of retinoscopy are illumination stage, reflex stage, and projection stage. In illumination stage, retina is illuminated. Retinoscope projects a beam of light into the patient's eye through the pupil. In reflex stage, the illuminated area of fundus act as an object and form its image at the far point of the eye. The light reflected back through the patient's pupil is called as retinoscopic reflex or red reflex. And here one thing that I want to tell you is you should have a good knowledge regarding far point, as what is far point, where does it lie in different refractive conditions of the eye. In projection stage, examiners see the reflex through the peephole of the retinoscope and observe its characteristics, which will help in making out the type of refractive error. Types of mirror settings or beam settings. In illumination stage, when we shine a light into the eye to see the glow, two types of mirrors are used to reflect light rays from the retinoscope, which are plane mirror and concave mirror. Plane mirror emits slightly diverging uncrossed light rays. It is most commonly used effect for determining refractive power under normal conditions, and this effect can be achieved by placing sleeve in down position. And concave mirror emit converged light rays. This effect is useful for determining high degree of ametropia and refractive error under hazy media such as cataract. This effect can be achieved by placing a sleeve in up position. Example of this type of retinoscope include those made by Welchlein, Hein and Keeler. Far point and refractive errors, which is I'm not going to discuss in detail, and I hope you all are familiar with refractive errors. So far point of the eye is defined as the point in space that is conjugated with the fovea when accommodation is at rest. Now what the word conjugate stands for? So two points are said to be conjugate if they have a reversible relationship between them. Let's understand this with example. Here we have luminous object at the far point and a lens. When rays of light pass through this luminous object through lens to create an image on the other side, we say that the object and image are conjugate with each other, because when we move the luminous object to the image point, the rays coming out from the luminous object pass back through the lens and focus at the previous location of the object, which we call the far point, and fulfilling the conjugacy reversible relationship. So if we know the position of far point, we can calculate the power of lens. The same we do in retinoscopy, where we have eye's optical system in place of a single lens. In retinoscopy, we rely on the reversibility of conjugate points. We illuminate the retina and look for the far point in space that is conjugate with fovea. And after knowing the location of far point, can calculate the power of eye's optical system. Normally, for an emmetropic eye, far point lies at infinity, therefore no lens is required to place the far point at infinity. And in such cases where far point lies other than infinity, purpose of doing retinoscopy is to place far point at infinity and making the eye emmetrop with the help of lenses, and that point is known as neutralization point. Now have a small discussion about the far point location in different refractive errors. Emmetropia. Emmetropia simply states absence of refractive error. Parallel rays of light coming from infinity focus on the fovea and retina is conjugate with infinity. So the far point for the emmetropic eye is infinity. Therefore, no lens is required to place the far point at infinity, and we can say that there is no refractive error. Hyperopia. A hyperopic eye has a relatively deficient refractive power, that is not having enough plus power. In hyperopia, parallel rays coming from infinity are not refracted enough and focus behind the eye. The retina is conjugate with a point at a greater distance than infinity. So we say that far point is beyond infinity, which is completely virtual, not a real. And plus lens is used as correcting lens in hyperopia, which converges incoming light rays onto the retina to make the retina conjugate with infinity. Myopia. A myopic eye has relatively excessive refractive power, that is too much plus power. In myopia, parallel rays are refracted too much and focus in front of the retina. The retina is conjugate with a point closer than infinity. So the far point for myopic eye lies somewhere between the eye and infinity. A correcting lens, minus lens, is used to diverge incoming rays back to the retina to make fovea conjugate with infinity. This was all basic discussion about far point and its importance in retinoscopy procedure. Next, we'll see characteristics of reflex, that what all things we should notice about retinoscopic reflex, and then how to use that information to determine refractive status of the eye. And finally, the refractive power, which is our goal of doing retinoscopy. But before that, one more thing that I want you people to know is working distance and working length. So working distance is the distance from the retinoscope to the patient's eye. From theory point of view, working distance would be best if it could be standard distance for measuring visual acuity, that is 20 feet or 6 meters, which is practically not possible to perform retinoscopy from that distance. For the reasons that first of all, reflex would appear very small, and second, not practical to change lenses at that distance while doing retinoscopy. Therefore, retinoscopy is generally performed at arm's length from the patient's eye. Working distance which is commonly used are 100 cm, 67 cm or 50 cm. Now the working length is the reciprocal of the working distance. As if you are doing retinoscopy at 100 cm distance, then working length would be of +1 diopter. and accordingly same goes for 67 centimeter. Working lens would be of plus 1.5 diopter. For 50 centimeter it would be plus 2 diopter. For now you just understand this, that what is working distance and working lens and value of working lens for different working distances. Its implication I will tell you while procedure, that why we are studying this. Get back to the characteristics of reflex which I left on hold. Characteristics of reflex are direction or movement of reflex, speed, intensity and width. While doing retinoscopy, first look for the movement of reflex. That will tell you the type of refractive error. So the movement of reflex in emetropia and ametropia are: in emetropia, far point of the eye is located at infinity, which we have already seen in the previous slides. The light rays emitted by the fundus are parallel to each other. So here we are talking about the rays which are coming out from the eyes. And when an examiner observes these reflected rays coming out of the eye as red reflex in the pupil, in the pupil of the patient, they show with movement along with the retinoscope's movement. As if you will move retinoscope to the right, red reflex will also move to the right. And if you will move retinoscope to the left, then red reflex will also move to the left. This kind of with movement of reflex you will see with streak positioned in any orientation in case of emetropia. In hypermetropia, the light rays emitted by the fundus are diverging and the reflex show with movement as in emetropia. In myopia, far point is located anterior to the eyeball. So movement of reflex in myopia depends on position of far point and the amount of refractive error. In myopia, light rays emitted by the fundus are converging and that can converge at different distances. So, if light rays emitted by the myopic fundus converge and meet behind the examiner, then reflex in pupil will show with the movement. And amount of myopia would be of less than working lens. That if you are working at 100 centimeter distance and far point lies behind the examiner eye, then myopia would be of less than plus 1 diopter, which you can find in most of the academic books. But I want you to understand that what if the working distance changed from 100 centimeter to 50 centimeter and far point is still behind the examiner eye, then there will be of myopia less than plus 2 diopter, not plus 1. We all are different and comfortable doing retinoscopy at different distances. So in case of myopia with far point behind the examiner's eye, myopia will be of less than working lens, not always 1 diopter. Next possibility is if light rays emitted by the myopic fundus converge and meet at the level of the pupillary plane of the examiner, then reflex in pupil will show no movement. And amount of myopia would be of equal to working lens. For example, if you are doing retinoscopy at 67 centimeter and far point lies at your pupillary plane, then you can say that there is myopia of 1.5 diopter. And if working distance is 50 centimeter, then myopia would be of 2 diopter spherical. And for the theory point of view, if you are in examination hall, then it can be asked reversed also. Like question can be that after doing retinoscopy, you found myopia of 1.5 diopter and with working distance of 67 centimeter. Where was patient's far point located, or what kind of reflex movement you will see? Then you can clearly see that according to the data given in question, you have myopia of equal to your working lens. So far point will be on the examiner's pupil plane and reflex shows no movement. So you can understand this in either way. Now, last possibility is in case of myopia can be if light rays emitted by the fundus converge and meet in a space between patient and examiner. Then reflex in pupil will show against movement. That if you will move retinoscope streak in the right direction, then reflex will move to the left and vice versa. And amount of myopia would be of greater than working lens. For example, if you are doing retinoscopy at 50 centimeter working distance and far point lies in between you and patient, then you can say that there is myopia of greater than 2 diopter. Summarize up this. So we can have with movement, against movement, and no movement. Whenever you are observing with movement, then there are 3 possibilities. And the options you have are it can be emetropia, hypermetropia or myopia of less than working lens. And it is neutralized with plus lens or convex lens. In case of against movement, you have only one option and you should be very clear. It is going to be myopia of more than working lens. And against movement is neutralized with minus lens or concave lens. And when there is no movement, you have only one option, which is myopia. And with no movement, myopia would be of equal to working lens. But remember, these movement guidelines are with plane mirror setting. With concave mirror setting, you are going to have results different from this. Now, let's move to the speed, intensity and width of the reflex and how are these characteristics going to help. So after seeing movement of reflex, look for the speed, that reflex is fast moving, slow moving or there is no movement. For intensity, see reflex is bright, dull or brightest. For width of reflex, see reflex is wide, narrow or filling entire pupil. So when you see reflex moving fast, bright and wide, it is indication for the small refractive error. When you see reflex moving slow, dull and narrow, it indicates large refractive error. And when you see no movement, brightest glow and entire pupil is filled with the glow, clearly indicates neutralization point. Now we are moving to the procedure of retinoscopy that can be done in 2 ways, with the use of cycloplegic drugs and without cycloplegics. So when we do retinoscopy after cycloplegics, that known as wet retinoscopy, and without cycloplegia known as dry retinoscopy. Cycloplegic retinoscopy in detail will cover in other videos separately. For now, I'll tell you only commonly used cycloplegics and the amount of tonus allowance for each. So commonly used cycloplegics are atropine, hometropine and cyclopentolate. And you will see tropicamide and phenylephrine also. So let me clear, tropicamide and phenylephrine used only as mydriatics, not as cycloplegics. So the tonus allowance are +1 for atropine, +0.5 diopter for hometropine and +0.75 for cyclopentolate. Other prerequisites for retinoscopy or the basic equipments we should have while performing retinoscopy are a dark room, which should be preferably 6 meter long. And why we choose 6 meter distance? Reason for that I mentioned in video of visual acuity part 1. Watch that. I am providing link in the description below. Next is spherical lenses, plus and minus both. Cylindrical lenses, plus and minus both. Prisms, accessories such as plano lenses. Occluder, pinhole, stenopic slit, red and green filters and Maddox rod for binocular vision tests. Then a trial frame, that sits comfortably but firmly on patient's face, distance and near vision chart, and last and must is retinoscope. Before starting retinoscopy, you should know about examiner's position and handling of retinoscope. So first I am talking about examiner's position, then handling of retinoscope. The points you should keep in mind regarding your position before starting procedure are: first of all, set the level of examination stool so that the eye level of the patient and yours is exactly same. Second is decide working distance as per your convenience between from 100 cm to 50 cm distance. Third, you should sit in front of the patient in such a way so that your head would not obstruct the patient's view of target, and even after sitting, instruct the patient to tell you if the view of the target is blocked in any way. Now the points regarding retinoscope handling you should know are: start with one-handed method, that is hold the retinoscope with one hand only, which is good for convenience and efficiency both, so that your other hand will be free to change the lenses while doing retinoscopy. Use your right hand and right eye to examine patient's right eye, and left hand and left eye for patient's left eye. This was all for your concern. Now for patient, explain the test to patient before starting that I am going to shine a light in your eye and get an indication of the power of the glasses you may need. Please keep both of your eyes open and look at the target, and let me know if my head blocks your view. Don't worry if the target is blurred, and you can blink whenever you need to. Let's start the procedure that we are doing at 66 centimeter, which is our working distance, with atropine as cycloplegic. So keep this in mind for the rest of the procedure. First step is to set the patient's distance PD in the trial frame. Step 2 is dim the room lights, which provides dilated pupil, high contrast, brighter view of the pupillary reflex. Then ask the patient to look at a distance target, and the target chosen for the patient to observe must be large or larger than 660, and that too should be a single object or letter which limits the eye movements rather than a row of letters or a spot of light. Then position the streak of a retinoscope at patient's pupil and sweep the retinoscope's streak across the pupil and observe characteristics of reflex, which I mentioned earlier in the video. Change the orientation of the streak from vertical to horizontal. Sweep again and observe red reflex, and repeat for other meridians too. Now here one more thing that you need to notice apart from characteristics of reflex is if you find the same type and in same amount of movement in all meridians as vertically, horizontally and obliquely, this indicates that eye under observation has spherical ametropia. That can be myopia or hypermetropia depending on the movement of reflex, or if you find that different kind of movement in one meridian and different in other meridian, this indicates the eye under observation has astigmatism. Now let's understand this with example. Start with shining a streak of light through retinoscope into the patient's pupil. Then sweep the streak of retinoscope in all meridians, that vertically, horizontally and obliquely, and observe the characteristics of reflex. Then choose any one meridian and neutralize that first. I'm taking vertical streak and we are seeing that red reflex is showing with movement. Here we will put plus power lens, and I'm taking +3 diopter to start. And now again observe the reflex movement through this lens, and it is still with movement. So change the +3 lens with the +3.25 diopter. Now again check through +3.25 diopter lens and see the reflex, and it is still with. So remove +3.25 and put greater power and Check again, and now with plus 3.5 diopter, it seems to be neutral, very bright reflex filled in the entire pupil. Now rotate the streak 90 degree away from this meridian. Repeat the same, sweep the streak and observe the reflex. And we can see again with movement here. So add more plus over plus 3.5 diopter. And again observe the reflex through the lens, and it is still with. So change the lesser plus power with the higher plus power. And observe red reflex through the lens. This time it seems neutral. Now I'll tell you how to make a power cross from these findings and how to record the findings in two principal meridians as power cross. First, make a cross. So when you place your streak vertically and sweep it from left to right or right to left, then you are actually neutralizing the horizontal meridian. Although the streak is vertical, but you are moving it horizontally, then power for this meridian will be written on horizontal meridian or axis on power cross, in which you are sweeping the streak not in the streak is oriented. Same when streak oriented horizontally and you are moving it up and down, then you are neutralizing vertical meridian, and the neutral power for this meridian will be on the vertical axis on power cross. So for this case, first we neutralized for horizontal meridian with plus 3.50 diopter by placing the streak vertically. It will be written on horizontal axis on power cross. Then neutralized vertical meridian with plus 1 diopter spherical over plus 3.5 diopter. So vertical meridian needed plus 1 plus 3.5 in total to get neutralized. It returned as plus 4.5 diopter on vertical axis on power cross. And now this power cross represents gross retinoscopy power. Now I'll tell you how to get net retinoscopy power from gross retinoscopy power. For that, deduct working lens power and cycloplegic tonus allowance if used from total retinoscopy power. So as initially I mentioned, for this whole video I am taking working distance 66 cm, for which working lens power will be plus 1.5 diopter. And cycloplegic used was atropine, so plus 1 diopter tonus allowance for this. Net retinoscopy power is equal to gross retinoscopy power minus working lens power minus cycloplegic tonus allowance. For the above example, gross retinoscopy power minus working lens minus cycloplegic tonus allowance, and we have this, which is known as net retinoscopy power. Next is to convert this cross into prescription. Let's see that. To solve this power cross, imagine a number line and circle both the numbers on number line. Choose any one number as a sphere and take axis of that number. In this, I am selecting plus 2 as a sphere and axis will be 90. Then for cylinder power, move from plus 2 to plus 1 on number line and count the number of steps needed and direction for sign. So plus 2 take only one step to reach plus 1 and in the negative direction. So cylindrical power will be minus 1. And the other method to solve power cross I mentioned in lensometer part 1 video. Link for that I am providing in the description below. And this was the method of neutralization with two spheres. Now we'll see spherocylinder method. For spherocylinder method, I start with when we have one meridian is already neutralized with plus 3.5 diopter. Now rotate the streak 90 degree away from this meridian. Repeat the same, sweep the streak and observe the reflex. And we can see again with movement. So here add plus cylindrical lens with axis aligned parallel to the streak of retinoscope. And with spherocylindrical method, you can directly read the prescription from the trial frame. As in place of a sphere, read the spherical power from the trial frame directly and it is plus 3.5 diopter. Next, cylinder power and axis also directly read from the trial frame and cylindrical power is plus 0.5 diopter and axis is 180. But this is gross retinoscopy power. And for net retinoscopy power, deduct working length and cycloplegic tonus allowance. So in this case, that will do from only spherical component. So plus 3.5 diopter minus 1.5 diopter, which is power of working length, and plus 1 diopter cycloplegic tonus allowance is equal to plus 1 diopter. So net retinoscopy power is plus 1 diopter spherical with plus 0.5 diopter cylinder at 180. And this is how you get the final refractive power of the patient. Hope you like this video. Thank you for watching. Like, share, comment and subscribe.